Hi! So I finally have some videos about my days in the Netherlands. I was so excited because the last time I visited Amsterdam, I was 16 and with my family. So this time around, like 8 years later, I have so much more freedom and so many more things to do. And I knew that one of those things was visiting Utrecht, aka Miffy's hometown.
I didn't expect it to be so cold, so I'm double dressing it up.
When I go backpacking like this, I usually just bring 2 dresses and a shirt. I find that the most versatile, layering, low volume closet I can pack. And on this windy day is when I decided to visit the Miffy Museum.
I've got my tickets. I am so excited to see the museum. I'm wearing my white dress and my white jacket as always to match with Miffy.
Utrecht was about a 45-minute train ride from Amsterdam, and immediately one of the houses outside the station had these really cool dessert details in the architecture. And of course, I immediately went to the Miffy Museum, passing by Miffy's crossing light. This is a kids' interactive museum loaded with artworks, originals, works in progress, and information on Dick Bruna, who is the creator of Miffy. I love his artwork, so it was super interesting to see some of his originals, not to mention the museum is just adorable and it's very sweet to see how educational it is and all the little interactive rooms that the kids can explore and play in. I definitely wish I could have come here as a kid. I asked the person at the entrance if they usually see young adult women visiting here without kids, and they said yes, so I'm valid, it's okay. There were so many cute places to take pictures here, and obviously I had to take the opportunity because when else am I gonna come to Utrecht to the most Miffy museum of all Miffy museums? Overall, if you're going to Amsterdam and you like Dick Bruna's artwork, I would definitely suggest coming here. It's an incredibly unique museum where you can meet the icon himself, as I did right here. And then after walking around and exploring the museum, right inside it is a cafe with a bunch of Miffy-shaped and themed foods. I got this spinach and cheese sandwich because I was very hungry. Was it good? No. But was it for the experience? Yes. Now I'm gonna go to the Winkel Miffy store and then probably do some museums, spend some time, and then check into the new hostel. I went not only to the museum store, but I also went to a bunch of different souvenir shops, and I did some damage. Not only getting gifts for myself, but also for my friends back home. I finished eating the rest of my Miffy sandwich on my walk back to the town. And before I left back to Amsterdam, I wanted to hit up some vintage stores and a very exciting music museum.
Okay, in the span of like 5 seconds and 10 meters, I just got catcalled twice. In the past 2 months of traveling, I have not been catcalled. I have not been catcalled once. And I just got twice. Literally in the span of like 5 seconds, it was 2 different guys. Anyway, I'm gonna go vintage shopping.
I'm recording this 2 months later at the end of my stay in Europe. This is still the first time in 4 months that I ever got catcalled, and it was twice in the span of 5 seconds. And it didn't happen to me any other time on my travels here. Anyway, as uncomfortable as that was, I did not let it ruin the day, and I ended up going to the Utrecht Speelklok Museum, which was absolutely breathtaking. This was a museum of all music automatas, so automated music made by machines that are incredibly old. And it was just so great. I arrived right on time for the English guided tour, which was amazing because without the tour, you don't get to hear any of the instruments or the machines. So the tour guide showed us all of these little secret hidden ones that we wouldn't have otherwise seen if it wasn't for the tour. And I just felt so lucky to have found this place. I'll leave the rest of the clips without any voiceover so you can listen to the music. And then it was the train back home to Amsterdam. By far, my favorite of the automatas was the last one, which was a cover of Yesterday by the Beatles. I don't know why, but it really made me tear up. It was amazing.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm about to go get my first meal in 8 hours since my damn Miffy sandwich, my damn Miffy burger. I'm gonna go get some Swedish meatballs.
My phone died once I got to the restaurant, but oh my god, the Swedish meatballs were so good. When I go back to Amsterdam, I'm definitely going back to that place. And then after I checked into my hostel, this was a pod hostel just north of the city center, and I really liked it. I felt like a little egg in an incubator. The next day was a shop exploring day. I started off at a cafe, had a matcha and a pastry, and then I walked around a bunch of different neighborhoods, mostly going to jewelry and vintage clothing stores. I am extremely picky when it comes to buying clothing, so I did not get anything on this trip, but of course I got all my Miffy stuff, so it doesn't count. I went to this super cute yarn store, but again, I really just keep it to window shopping. I went to go try the famous Fable Frites. Apparently they're like very famous loaded fries. I tried them, they were good. Not like to die for, but they were good fries. Then another really funny thing is that I ended up finding 3 different stores selling Mexican stuff. And that is not at all what I would have expected in the Netherlands, but it was so cute. This one store had piñatas and papel picado and just so many very, very sweet things to see. I was not expecting that at all, and it was very, very funny to see multiple stores with this. I stopped at some art stores on the way to get some food. I've recently fallen back into my obsession with Frida Kahlo again. Trust, I will be planning a visit to Mexico City very soon. Anyway, I went to this place that was recommended like all over TikTok when I was looking for places to go to Amsterdam. Right as I got there, it began pouring rain outside, so it was kind of like a hostage situation, but it was a good meal. For dessert, I had my first fresh stroopwafel, which was so incredibly good. Then I went to one of the many photo booths in Amsterdam, walked around, and ended up going to this little cafe tea shop, which was so cute. Just look at the menu and the decor. And then one of the final shops I went to was this jewelry store that had a very strange elevator to get up to it. I stopped by the Mouse Mansion, which is a shop and miniature museum with all of these adorable mouse plushies and little puppets. As someone who's often surrounded by miniatures, I used to love miniatures and making them when I was a kid, but also my friends do a lot of stop motion, so they're always building sets, and it was so cool to see just like 2 whole floors full of these sets in person. I highly recommend going here if you're an artist. Afterwards, to continue my museum day, I went to the Kitten Cabinet, also known as the Katten Cabinet, which is a cat museum. It's pretty small, but very worth it in my opinion. They have a bunch of cat-related artworks, real cats roaming around and sleeping on antique furniture, and a whole garden with posters that you can also hang out in. They had some very cool pieces that I'd never seen before, as well as some classics. I think my favorite of all of them was this metal cat. This one, I don't know who he is, but he really made an impact on me. There was also a little sort of altar/memorial section for guests to leave notes to their cats who have passed away. And this was very emotional for me. I have a cat that I very, very much adored, and he passed away, so I did also leave a note for him. For my final museum visit in Amsterdam, I went to Micropia, which I was so excited for. If you don't know, I am obsessed with microbes, radiolaries, plankton, really like any tiny organism you can see under a microscope. The museum had a bunch of interactive features, a card you could stamp, a like kissing booth to see what germs you can exchange, a full body scan to look at the bacteria on your body. There was so much. They had like a little window where you could watch the scientists at work. And not only that, they also had like an art exhibition, like these glass bacteria, viruses, and then a whole wall of tufted mold, which was amazing. If you guys didn't know, I used to work with tufting a lot. And then this was my favorite part, which was a wall of mold. I think these are petri dishes, and it was so cool. It was definitely one of my favorite museums. It's a very special interest of mine, and it's very inspiring. So I adored Micropia. Thank you, Amsterdam, for having this museum. It's freaking epic. And that was it for my 3 days of solo travel in Amsterdam. I will be coming back, so stay tuned for another Amsterdam video sometime in the future. If you made it to the end of the video, leave a comment that says, "Hello, Miffy." Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!